It's me, Bram Stoker, back at it again with a new episode of the Boy Time Podcast. As always, I'm joined by Babby.
Wow.
We have a fun and exciting podcast episode, as always. We actually have some news, some sad news, and some all right news. I guess I'm not super pumped. A lot of people are. But we'll start with the good news. The Switch 2 was officially announced, and that's what it's called.
Mm-hmm.
To me, that is the dumbest name that Nintendo
Switch
has
again.
ever thought. It might. Which is worse, Switch 2 or Wii U?
Wii U is absolutely worse.
Okay. I think they're both very dumb.
Switch 2 is just generic.
It's very generic, and every single one of their consoles, except for the Wii U, is like its own thing. So it feels weird for the next console
Yeah.
to take a step in the Wii U's footsteps. Because that was not their most, I think, their least successful console. So I don't know what they're thinking. Like, people were just calling it the Switch 2 because we didn't know what else to call it.
Like, you know what? That's a good name. I'll take that.
Yeah, we'll just keep it as the Switch 2. They pretty much just announced the console's coming out this year and that there's going to be a new Mario Kart game on it, which is...
I'm excited for that, at least.
I do like that. It is kind of sad that they skipped a generation in terms of Mario Kart releases, because I don't count 8 Deluxe. That's not a new game. It's just a port with the season pass.
Although with all the DLC, there's a lot of content on that game.
Oh, that's true. I don't know. That was like a launch title for the Switch was 8 Deluxe.
Yeah.
And then they just waited 8 years and didn't do a new Mario Kart. Are you kidding me? Whatever. I'm not mad. But it's called the Switch 2. The Joy-Cons look a little bigger, but still not big enough, I think. I don't understand their obsession with having little baby. They're making controllers for 5-year-olds. I have big man hands, but I do like that it's backwards compatible, both with digital and physical games, which does beg the question, are they still going to use game carts? Which I guess they have to.
Yeah.
But game carts are not good when it comes to
Well, they
storage.
put the thing on them that makes them taste bad, though.
Probably. I don't know.
Question.
I haven't tasted a new one. I don't know if they still do that.
Yeah, I suppose.
I remember, I think we all did it in 2017.
We all did it.
We all licked the same
bad.
one. I don't know if that's true. I don't remember what really happened. I just know that we all tried it. And it was fine. Maybe if you're a baby, it'll convince you not to eat it, but...
Oh, absolutely.
Didn't work for me. I gobble those things up like animal crackers or something. But yeah, I'm very excited. I can't wait to see if Zelda Breath of the Wild 3 will be on the Switch too. It'll be very fun to see.
Just keeping it going.
Yeah. We do need a new Mario, 3D Mario. I know I brought that up sometime recently, but I'm just putting it out there again. But that's pretty much it. That's all we know. But the sad news, I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe my eyes when I opened Twitter today. Got the worst news I've gotten in a very, very long time, that David Lynch is dead. I can't believe it. I cannot believe it.
Yeah, the strange, like, oh, there's a Switch 2 coming out. Oh, David Lynch died.
Yeah, it was like...
This entire week's been a roller coaster.
Yeah, I don't much care for it, honestly. Yeah, it's really sad. And the worst part about it is that he didn't do his weather reports. He'd never brought that back. A whole year missing of weather reports. And I will never be able to believe it if it is a Friday once again. What is it? It is a Thursday? Is it Thursday? What was that?
It was Friday.
It's Friday. It's probably Friday. It would make more sense than saying it's Thursday once again.
Yeah.
I think it's Friday once
With
again.
him, you never know, though.
That's true. Yeah, but that I'm not sure what this means because he was working on something. We knew that.
Hmm.
He announced a statement like 3 months ago. That was him saying that he had lymphoma or something, which is
Uh, emphysema? Is that what it is?
emphysema, something. He had some sort of lung condition because of years
Hmm.
of smoking. And he said, I'm never going to retire, implying that he was working on something. But I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen to that. But honestly, he left behind a lot of great movies, some of which I even like. Uh, so shout out David Lynch. Rest in peace, obviously.
Yeah. This is one of these where it's like it's very sad, but it's not tragic, and it's more of like a look at the body of work that
Oh
he
yeah,
has done. It's actually it's insane. And like the inspiration that he has given like so many people is incredible. I think just like Twin Peaks being maybe the best my favorite TV series, but just like the entire way I view art in general is like a big reason because of him. So it's just like it's not even like like I'm sad about it, but like at the same time, it's not like oh, this is a tragedy. Like he knew he was going.
yeah. It would be
That
one
emphysema
thing.
post was pretty he
Yeah,
worded it funny, but it was a clear indicator that things were
yeah,
not going well.
yeah. I mean, it was told in his specific tone.
Yeah.
That's one thing that I really liked about the guy is that he's maybe the funniest director ever. I'll say
Hmm.
that. Every other director takes themselves so goddamn seriously. Like this is my most influential work, and he never really did that. My favorite, well, one of my favorite clips of his is him saying, Eraserhead is my most spiritual film. And then his interviewer is like, "Oh, really? Care to elaborate on that?" And he just says, "No."
No.
It's like I love that he's just like really cheeky, like kind of drops these things and then
Hmm.
just moves on. Like I will not elaborate further. I'm just going to leave you with a statement and then you work on it. And that's kind of like a big theme in his work is not coming to
Never
direct
answers
conclusions,
questions. Yep.
lets you figure everything out, and he did that a lot in his real life too. Just a great presence that is lost. But
There
yeah,
will never be another David Lynch.
no, unfortunately not. Uh, yeah, I can't think of. I mean, Guillermo del Toro, he's just a cutie. That's
Hmm.
kind of, but he's a funny guy too, but not as public as David Lynch was.
Yeah, the way his brain works is just like there's such a uniqueness there that like you can't put your finger on. Like the just like between like Blue Velvet and just like the entire Twin Peaks series, there's
Mhm.
just like ineffable like quality about those.
Yeah.
That's just like crazy.
Yeah, it's an interesting kind of arc he went on where he started off making like straight up like avant-garde surrealist
Yeah.
stuff and then moved into the mainstream with like Blue Velvet and Dune and Twin Peaks. And then like in his later years, he almost like rejected everything and went back to what he really loved about making films in the first
Hmm.
place, going like with Lost Highway or Inland Empire. Inland Empire is like shot on video. Like it wasn't even supposed to be a movie. He was just shooting footage and then just kind of like combines it all together. I don't think there's like a narrative really tying that together. I think it's all just kind of a hodgepodge of different ideas he was working on. And that's his last movie. But yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's an interesting kind of arc that he
It's
went
an
on.
insane combination of a true artist without being pretentious like at all.
Oh yeah.
It's insane. Like that it's just the truest, purest creative form in all of his work, and it's insane.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
no other creative that I've seen in my life can do that well. And I'm so glad I have like so many more of his things to like dive into
Yeah.
because I feel like he put it all out there in his art and like his interviews are just like, no, I will not answer questions. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah, just a great guy. Well,
So
I
I'm
don't
I'm
know.
glad we can celebrate instead of like it's mourning, but it's a celebratory tone and not a tragedy tone in my eyes.
Yeah, it's not like Satoshi Kon is someone I always think of, where he made like 3 movies and then, or maybe 4, and then he died, and then it's just like, man, like that was someone that was like just settling in to finding their
Hmm.
voice and has like released some like, I think Perfect Blue is, I'm getting okay. Yeah, Perfect Blue is like a masterpiece. Like an absolutely perfect movie, and no pun intended, I guess. But uh it's just like, and then he died really unexpectedly really early. And that feels more tragic than David Lynch, cuz David Lynch lived a full life, and you know, and he has a whole body of work that we can look back on and appreciate. So I don't know. Shout out everything. Watch a David Lynch movie this weekend, maybe.
Where you
Watch The
We
Straight
watch Twin
Story.
Peaks once a year, but I think we're going to have to run it back again.
Yeah, I don't know. I
I don't
can't
know.
rewatch Twin Peaks right now. It's just too loud. Just too darn loud, as Huey Lewis would say in Back to the
Yeah,
Future.
I suppose. Yeah, I think us over here, we got to wait a little bit before we do that. I don't know. That I haven't seen anything better than that show, I don't think.
Hmm.
That was David Lynch.
I mean, yeah. Yeah. Just, well, I guess you can't really skip the second season, but
No,
just
there are parts where it definitely dies,
fast
but
forward past all the James stuff.
episode 12 through 16 or 17 or whatever it is.
Yeah. Uh, but
But
yeah.
season 3 is also a masterpiece. So spiritual experience watching that for the second time after I kind of got it. The first time was perplexing.
Yes. I think that, like, it's interesting that I think that is kind of widely regarded to be his best thing,
I
which
think
is
it is.
shocking
Yeah.
because, like, the man has absolute classics under his belt. And, like, this is like
Hmm.
film Twitter. And, like, they're like, yeah, this movie director's best thing is his TV show. Uh,
Yeah, it's interesting.
it is.
But I don't know. We got a lot more Lynch to watch. I got a lot of a lot on my list still. So I'm at least glad there's a big body of work to dive into still.
Yeah. Yeah. I'd recommend going to The Straight Story. That's my favorite.
Okay.
I don't think that's the least popular take I maybe have ever said, but I do love The Straight Story. Plus, it takes place in my home state of Iowa, and I like that. And David Lynch also had
That is
a
nice.
house in Iowa, in
Hmm.
Fairfield, the hippie city. Well, it's not really a city; it's like a town. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's all I have to say about David Lynch. What a good old boy. Watch The
Quite a
Fableman
bit.
season that.
The goat.
Also, maybe my favorite director acting in things.
True. Yeah.
Uh, Tarantino puts himself in a lot of things, but he's not very good at acting. Spike
Nope.
Lee is maybe the only other one that you could say, and I think maybe Spike Lee is the best actor, because I don't think David Lynch is particularly a great actor, but man, his
It's
his
fun to watch.
mannerisms every time he's on screen in Twin Peaks, it is like it's a
Bring a
breath
big
of
old
fresh air.
smile out of my face.
Yeah, it's the best. That's the best stuff in that show, in my opinion.
Hmm.
Is David Lynch is the deaf guy, which I could
The
relate to.
self-insert, but also just a goofy guy.
Yeah, I love it. But yeah, that's David Lynch stuff. I think that's pretty much it for news, at least that I cared about.
I think so.
Now I'm gonna talk about 2 movies that are basically the same, but one of them came out yesterday, and one of them came out like in the early '90s. I'm gonna be talking about Nosferatu and Bram Stoker's Dracula. Two adaptations of the same thing. Uh, we'll start. I don't know which one. Which one should I start with? The old one or the new one?
Go chronological.
Okay. Bram Stoker's Dracula. It's it's a Dracula movie. It was written and directed by Francis Ford Coppola. Many people think is the best director of all time. I actually don't think that's true. I don't think anyone would make that claim. He's made some classics like Apocalypse Now and Godfather 1 and 2. But this was in the early 90s. He was bankrupt. He started a film production company and it was going under. And he said, you know what? I'm going to pull a megalopolis, which is something I'm toying around with in the future, where I'm going to bankroll two movies with my own cash and try to make as much money as possible for my film production company to save it. And so the first one he released, I think it was first, is Godfather 3. People saw it, but nobody really likes that movie. I think it's okay. It's not the worst thing I've ever seen. In terms of like, I think it only sucks under the context of it being a Godfather sequel because those first two movies are near perfect. I think the first one is perfect. But yeah, the third one just feels weird. And then he like self-inserted his daughter into it to be like a main character. And Sofia Coppola is a very talented artist, but not a very talented actor. So it's kind of unfortunate. I think the best thing about that movie is that it gave us the I thought I was dead, but then they pulled me back in scene from The Sopranos.
Classic.
Which is funny because I don't think that line is in the movie. I think it's just from the trailer. And it's just Al Pacino in like a white background and he just says it to nobody. It's kind of weird. But yeah, the second one that Coppola made was Bram Stoker's Dracula, which I'm going to be completely honest. I don't get why he thought this would save his company because, I mean, I guess like it's Dracula. Everybody knows Dracula. But yeah, it's so like he like went way artsy with it in a way that like I don't think that the layman is going to appreciate. And I'm not saying that to bash on the layman, but like there's a lot of like very specific like artistic choices where like there's like a flashback scene where we're seeing Dracula before he's a vampire and he's like this warlord that is slaying the Ottoman Turks. This all takes place in Eastern Europe. And like and that's all like shown with like silhouettes on like a red background and some of them are real people but some of them are like obviously like cutouts, so it's like harkening back to like original animated movies we just talked about. Like I don't remember, maybe that was last week or the week before.
Week? Yeah.
We were just talking about that using shadows and silhouettes like
Oh yeah, Wallace
first.
and Gromit. That was last.
Wallace and Gromit. Okay. Yes. So we were just talking about that, and he's hearkening back to that, which I think is really interesting. And also when Dracula arrives in London, like, and I honestly don't know how he did this, but he recreated how old silent movies are shot, specifically in like the film grain and color grade and the frame rate. Like the frame rate is increased. So like everybody kind of looks like they're moving faster, like a little bit faster than they should be, which is like so like common in movies from like the 1910s and 20s. Like you watch like an old Charlie Chaplin and everybody's moving really fast. And I think that's just like a product of the time and like the how like the technology, but he somehow recreated it. And honestly, that one doesn't really make any sense because he's just in London, but whatever. I don't know if I really need to go into the story of Dracula. I think everybody pretty much knows. Where there's dude and lady. Dude has to go to Transylvania to sell Dracula a piece of land in London, and then Dracula is actually a vampire. Big twist. And he traps man there, and then he goes to London, and then Lady is very sad, but then Dracula tries to seduce Lady, and then Van Helsing shows up, and then Van Helsing kills Dracula. The whole day is saved. Isn't that nice? What a lovely story. It's really,
Yippee.
it really stands the test of time. You know, it's a timeless classic. But what this movie does is it brings in stuff from the original book that is not in most adaptations. Because I don't know if you are too familiar with the Dracula book, but the whole thing is told in journal entries and letters. So, like, it kind of makes it hard to adapt completely because of that specific medium. So I feel like most adaptations of Dracula are either adapting like the original 1931 Bela Lugosi or the actual first adaptation of Dracula, Nosferatu, which is slightly different than Dracula, but we'll get there when we get there. Um, but yeah, there isn't a whole lot to say about Bram Stoker's Dracula. It's a very like technically amazing movie. If you're like paying attention to the specific filmmaking techniques, I think there's a lot to get out of here. There's a lot of like really fun like double exposure moments and like really fun practical special effects things, like little tricks that are really fun. Like that was honestly my favorite part of the movie because like I know the story of Dracula, so like this wasn't like, oh, I wonder what's going to happen next. In fact, I watched this like the day after I saw Nosferatu, so I'm like, I just saw this movie, so maybe that was a poor decision on my part. But I'm glad I waited. I'm glad I didn't switch these and watch this before Nosferatu, because then I really would have been sick of it, and I didn't want that to taint the new movie. But let's talk about the cast. Gary Oldman as Dracula is maybe the best decision that anyone has ever made, ever. Gary Oldman already is maybe one of the best actors of all time. So to have him play Dracula is a pretty obvious choice, and he pulls it off really great. Whether he's playing like human Dracula or as the monster, and the prosthetics and everything look fantastic. Unfortunately, no one else. Well, okay, Anthony Hopkins is in this movie as Van Helsing, and he holds his own, obviously. Again, probably an actor that could, like, is in the conversation for best actor of all time. And so, like, those two are, like, acting circles around everybody else because our other two leads for Guy and Lady are Keanu Reeves and Winona Ryder. And I don't want to bash them because Winona Ryder is in things that I like, and Keanu Reeves is in things that I like. But I honestly don't think that Keanu Reeves is a very good actor at all. I think his best acting is in Bill and Ted, and that is a problem if that is the best that you can do. In like his action movies, he's fine. He's never like the star. Well, I mean, he's literally the star, but like he's like the least interesting part of all of his action movies. Like Morpheus is way more interesting a character than Neo is because Lawrence Fishburne is so good at everything he's ever done, probably. I haven't seen all of his movies, but what I've seen, I absolutely love him in. Uh, so I don't know. He's fine. And Winona Ryder is like pretty bad in this, which again, she isn't bad in general. Like I really like Heathers and Beetlejuice. She's good in, but uh, yeah, this one was not it. So like it's really awkward where there's scenes with like Keanu Reeves opposite like Gary Oldman or Winona Ryder opposite Anthony Hopkins, and it's like, oh, it's so obvious that like these two absolute monoliths are like just acting in circles around everyone else. And also, and this is I just used this well, it's not really like a he broke his foot in Return the Two Towers or whatever, but Keanu Reeves maybe gives the worst movie accent I've ever heard, and I think it might be the worst one of all time. For some reason, he tries to do a British accent, and I don't know if he trained at all or if he just showed up on set and was like, I can do a British accent fine, I guess. That's honestly kind of what I think happened because there is absolutely no consistency in any of the words that he says. Sometimes there's R's, sometimes there's not R's. Sometimes he like blatantly uses like West Coast pronunciation of some words, and sometimes it's a half-assed version of a British one. It's pretty bad. It's pretty hard to describe too. Like I can go into specific words, but nobody cares. Like inferno, he says like inferno. Like that's not how a British person would say that. Like they wouldn't say infer like a Spanish person. I don't know. Doesn't make much sense to me. But yeah, there's a lot of scenes where it's like when Guy goes to meet Dracula, where like they're just talking and like Dracula is giving, Gary Oldman is giving this very foreboding and sinister performance as Dracula. And then Keanu Reeves opens his mouth and says something.
I want to suck your nut.
It's pretty much like that. It's so bad. Uh, so yeah, that definitely brings it down a lot. Honestly, it's probably a whole star. The fact that those two are in it, um, or whatever the performance that those two gave. I don't want to. Whatever. I did say that I don't really like Keanu Reeves acting in general, but it's fine. But yeah, that's Bram Stoker's Dracula. It's really great. Oh, also a big point that I should probably bring up is that the costumes are absolutely phenomenal. Specifically, the costumes for Dracula. If you have seen anything from this movie, it's probably what Dracula looks like because it doesn't look at all like Dracula has looked in any movie ever. And that is very deliberate because I believe Coppola, he recruited some, I don't even know how he found him, but it was like some costume designer in like a small village in Japan who had never seen anything vampire or Dracula related. And he said, I want you to design all of the costumes for Dracula. And so a lot of like Dracula's garb is like silks and like these kind of like Eastern representations of what they would think of like royalty or something, which gives like this really iconic look that is so specific to this movie, where it isn't like the black cloak with the big collar and like the well dressed suit. Like I don't think he wears a suit like as Dracula. He like wears a suit out in public because he's trying to blend in, but like when he's like actually the vampire self, he's always wearing these like really bright colors, which you don't really think of with vampires. I think that that's just really cool. I like when like artists like that like do that, where they like bring in outsiders to kind of create something new. And I think other franchises could learn from that. I won't name names,
Wink, wink.
but it's all of them.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that's pretty much Bram Stoker's Dracula. It's pretty good. I don't know if it's better than Godfather 3. I'll let you decide. But a movie that is infinitely better is Nosferatu, the Robert Eggers version. Because now there are 3 versions of Nosferatu. There's like 12 versions of Dracula, and they're all the same story. I don't know. I guess I should probably bring up what Nosferatu is in relation to Dracula. Like, why are there 2 movies with different titles that are the same plots? And that is a decent question because I believe Bram Stoker's novel of Dracula came out in the late 1800s, maybe 1890s. So like right around when like film was becoming a thing, and it took a while for it to be adapted because I think the original Nosferatu came out in 1922, and uh, basically it was a German production company that reached out to Bram Stoker and was like, "Yo, can we adapt your book into a movie?" And they said, "No, I don't want you to do that." And so then the German production company respected his wishes and did it anyway, but just changed all of the names. So Dracula is not Dracula, he's Count Oleg. And Lady is not Lady, she's Ellen. I don't know what her name is.
Degenerate.
Ellen DeGeneres. And what is it? I think Renfield is like Knock or something. Basically, just like all of the names are changed, but the story is the same. So much so that I think Bram Stoker or Bram Stoker's estate actually sued them and won. So like it wasn't seen in the States for a while, if I'm remembering the story correctly. There was like some legal tie-ups where basically it was only seen in Europe for a really long time. So that's the original Nosferatu. I think they changed the ending too, because in Dracula, uh, they kill Dracula, like the Van Helsing and Man and other doctor guy. They kill Dracula, but in Nosferatu, it is Lady that kills Nosferatu or Count Oleg, because it's a secret feminist film. Because if there's one thing that Germans were known for in the 1920s, it's being accepting of all people.
Absolutely.
That actually is kind of true. Berlin was like one of the most like socially progressive cities before the Nazi takeover. I
It's
don't
funny how
know.
they alternate between that.
Yeah, I mean, like right now, Berlin is probably one of the most like socially progressive places. Like it's very accepting of like
Yeah,
trans
but at the same
folks.
time, they're like the biggest, like, if you have a Palestinian flag, you're going to jail.
Well, yeah, yeah, but I think like just like not
Yeah,
government,
exactly.
just like the people there are very
Yep. It's
accepting.
a very weird balance.
Yes. So yeah, I don't know if the original was supposed to be like a feminist thing, but I know they changed the ending to specifically have the lady kill Dracula. So I don't know. There's something there. But there was another adaptation in the 70s that Werner Herzog did. I think it's just called Nosferatu the Vampire. And I haven't seen that one. I don't really feel the need to. I haven't seen any Werner Herzog movie, which maybe is a bad thing to say online, but it's true. And I don't think I should start with Nosferatu the Vampire. Maybe Agir, the Wrath of God, or something like that. But that was the only other adaptation, and then that we have one now, directed by Robert Eggers, director of such hit films like The Witch, The Lighthouse, and The Northman. I'm surprised this
He
wasn't
loves
called
the
The Nosferatu. That's what he should have called it.
true.
But yeah, if there's one thing that you know about Robert Eggers is that he loves long, drawn out, dark, evil, demonic, surreal, edgy, sketchy, sexual stuff. And I've seen The Witch and The Lighthouse before watching Nosferatu. I did not like The Lighthouse at all. The Witch I thought was pretty good, but I wasn't in love with it. I don't really know why I wanted to watch this movie because I don't really love the original Nosferatu movie, and that's not unpopular. I don't think that movie is like widely regarded as being very good. There's like a couple scenes or moments that everyone knows, like when like he walks through the door, the famous thing that SpongeBob like sampled, I guess. That shot. They interpolated it a little bit
Yeah.
in SpongeBob. But there's that specific thing where like he kind of that's like his introduction, I think, where he kind of walks through that door and you see him for the first time, and he's a little goblin guy. And then at the very end, there's like him going up the stairs. You just see like his shadow, and he's like kind of creeping, and he's got those long fingernails. It's a very iconic shot. But aside from that, the movie's kind of bad. Uh, just in general, like I don't know, it's fine, but I don't know. Uh, so I don't know. Everything surrounding it, I'm like being pointed. I'm like, I'm not gonna like this movie really at all. And I kind of loved Nosferatu, the new one. It might be one of the like scariest things I've ever seen, which I also was not expecting from Robert Eggers, because I always think of his like horror movies like The Witch. It's like, oh, there's like hardly any actual horror in it. It's mostly like a family drama with like aspects of like, witchcraft and that kind of stuff. Um, I wasn't really scared ever in The Witch in like a traditional sense, but man, as I was watching Nosferatu, it was just like I was like a whole ball of stress the entire time. And there's like no easing of it at all. There's hardly any moments where something like a scene goes by without something terrifying happening. And it's just like I don't really like that, and didn't really like that atmosphere. But at the same time, it's very very good. It's maybe the prettiest horror movie I've ever seen. The ways that like shots are composed and everything. The movie has kind of like it isn't quite black and white, but it also isn't fully in color. It kind of reminds me of Zack Snyder's Justice League, which maybe isn't a great comparison to make, but that's kind of what the color grade reminds me of. Um, and like the vibes of this are like I already went into it. It's just dreadful the entire time. Where like the movie starts with like one of the most effective jump scares I've ever seen, where like we're with Lady Ellen, I guess her name is, uh, and she's just like praying to God to send her a guardian angel or anything, and then like a giant booming voice comes in and like you need to swear fealty to me. Also, side note, I I kind of love that like the only reason that Dracula is like explicitly like Eastern European and like every adaptation, and most specifically Hungarian, is just because Bela Lugosi was legitimately Hungarian. He was just speaking how he was speaking normally. But now every time there's a Dracula adaptation, you have to have a Hungarian accent. I just think that's kind of cute. And that continues here. Even it's like thicker than usual. And I gotta give props to Bill Skarsgård, um, who he plays a great monster. That's kind of his whole shtick. I don't know if I've ever seen him where he isn't wearing like tons of prosthetics and makeup and stuff. And the portrayal of Nosferatu in this movie is oh, it's so gross. I think, and this is something I maybe should have brought up in Bram Stoker's Dracula, because that movie is so explicitly sexual all of the time. Because Francis Ford Coppola is a massive pervert, as we learned on the behind the scenes from Megalopolis, where he was just like groping women for no reason on set. I don't know why I'm laughing, but I just can't believe that that is true. And that still happens as such a high profile director as he is, but whatever. Um, so like when we think of vampires generally, there is an aspect of sexuality to it. It isn't like a zombie or a werewolf or a Frankenstein. Like those things, nobody really wants to. Well, I guess Taylor Lautner is an exception, but nobody really wants to fuck any of those monsters. But you know, Bela Lugosi was an attractive guy. I feel like everybody who plays Dracula was like kind of made to do that. Every vampire has like an element of seduction. Like that is a part of their mythos, a part of their lore. So that's always kind of an aspect. And I think that's kind of where Nosferatu differentiates itself from Dracula a little bit because uh, no one would ever fall in love with a little goblin creature. But this movie takes it like a step further where he's like a 7 foot tall, like hulking beast. He doesn't really look like a goblin. He looks like a rotting corpse with a giant, like Victorian era mustache. It looks like he's gonna like do big game hunting in the Congo and then cut off 1,000 indigenous Congolese arms off or something. It's a very specific look, and they give him like the thickest Hungarian accent I've ever heard, even thicker than Bela Lugosi, which I think is an interesting choice. It kind of makes it hard to understand him at times. I think the movie knew that because at some points they just subtitle him straight up because you can't understand what he's saying. Uh, but yeah, I think having him portrayed as that is especially effective um, because yeah, it just makes it more scary. I think because I'm not really scared of Bela Lugosi. He just seems like a nice guy who's addicted to morphine. Um, but I don't know. Maybe Bill Skarsgård is too, but that doesn't really come into play in this movie. He's probably addicted to nitrous or galaxy gas these
Where you?
days. That's more our speed. Well, actually, Bill Skarsgård is. I don't know. I don't know how old he is. Uh, why doesn't it say on Letterboxd? Give me his birthday, you coward. It's fine. But yeah, I think this movie also differentiates itself from every other adaptation of Dracula because it's also a possession movie. Ellen is like possessed by Dracula or Nosferatu explicitly throughout all of this movie. Like the movie starts, it's like her getting, like accepting Dracula as her Lord and Savior. And then ever since then, she's like haunted by terrible nightmares, specifically of Nosferatu and all of his funny shenanigans, like murdering her entire family and getting married to her and stuff.
Yeah,
Um,
typical stuff.
just it's normal. But like ever since she found man, what's this guy's name? Thomas. The Nosferatu really just took all of the interesting names and made them not interesting. Like Van Helsing, let me see. His character's name is actually that's kind of cool. Albin Eberhard von Franz. Okay, that's kind of sick. It doesn't roll off the tongue like Van Helsing, but it's fine. Um, but yeah, a lady finds husband named Thomas, and when she marries Thomas, like those nightmares go away. And anytime that they're together, like Nosferatu's presence is gone. So it almost like becomes this like really clingy, dependent relationship where she is like always wanting to be around him. Otherwise, she's going to have terrible visions of a rotting corpse man in her dreams, which is understandable. I wouldn't want to see that either. But yeah, I don't want to give too much away, but it's also a story that's over 100 years old. So I don't, the description I did for Bram Stoker is literally probably exactly what happens in Nosferatu. Just got to give a lot of qualifiers so I don't say anything too explicit. Don't want to spoil anything. Um, oh yeah, but I was talking about the possession because that's something very very different. Because like once Thomas leaves to go get the deed to Dracula, uh, then it almost becomes like The Exorcist or something, where it is like there are like she's left with two other people who I don't think are Well, they're kind of in the original Dracula, but not really. Lucy is, who is now Anna. Uh, yeah, I don't just. Wait, that's something about the Werner Herzog movie is that it's called Nosferatu, but all the character names are the Dracula names, which makes everything way more confusing. But they go back to the original Nosferatu names in this one. Uh, but yeah, she's lived with two people, and then like she starts having like these fits where she's possessed, and it does feel a lot like The Exorcist. Where like in the beginning of the movie, when Thomas first leaves, it starts off pretty minor, where she's like having night terrors, then eventually that kind of escalates to her like screaming, and then like it becomes full on like she is flat out possessed by Nosferatu, and they have to call in Willem Dafoe to exorcise the demon out. Um, it's very explicitly kind of exorcist esque, uh, which is very nice. I like that. It was like a welcome addition. I think. Gotta have Lady have more agency because she's kind of just a human MacGuffin in the original Dracula. Which honestly, I can't believe Bram Stoker wasn't woke. It's very disappointing. I think we might have to cancel Bram Stoker. His name already sounds like a sex toy. Um, so that's honestly a point against him. I don't know anything about him other than that. Um, but yeah, that's nice. And I also really like that like Nosferatu is not subtle at all in this movie. There isn't like a way to like disguise him because that's kind of another different thing about Nosferatu than Dracula because Dracula can kind of disguise himself and appear normal so that he can seduce people in and then he turns into a monster. Nosferatu is just always a monster, and I don't really understand why anyone would talk to him ever, but people do for some reason even though he's the scariest thing on the entire planet. And if I ever saw anything that even closely resembled Nosferatu, I think I would run in the opposite direction immediately. And I'm not that type of person. I don't usually run away from people, typically. I don't know if I've
It,
ever run away from anyone because I'm brave, right?
yeah.
Okay. Uh, I forgot what I was saying. We talked about the possession. That's probably all I want to go into about story specifics because this is a new movie. It just came out yesterday. And by yesterday, I mean Christmas. And it's not December
Still
26th.
yesterday.
It's pretty much yesterday. I watched it 2 days ago, so it's kind of yesterday to me. But yeah, this movie really freaked me out, and I didn't much care for that, but it is very, very good. I gave it 4.5 stars because it is phenomenal. But man, I don't think it joins Hereditary and Long Legs as two horror movies I will never watch again, but are very good. I was just shocked that this movie was directed by the same guy who did The Witch and The Lighthouse, which are very subtle, artsy, pretentious movies. And then this is very straightforward, which me as a dumb guy really appreciates. So yeah, that's pretty much it. That's Nosferatu. That's Bram Stoker's Dracula. Um, I think Nosferatu is my favorite Dracula movie, but I don't really think there's that stiff of competition. I don't really like any of them. This is like the only vampire movie I really like. I don't know if I've seen a vampire movie that I love. So, or at least not one that I can remember right now. But that's it for Nosferatu. Is there anything else that I watched? Yes, but that's for a different show. Speaking of, I guess now is as good a time as any. The first episode of my new podcast is out and it is live everywhere. Everywhere that you would get your podcasts.
Everywhere.
Everywhere. Pretty much. Everywhere that I could send it. Ones that didn't require me to get invited by the specific podcast streaming service, I was able to get it on there.
Neat.
Anywhere that you can listen to this podcast, I guess. So check it out. It's called Love the Mom. I made it with my mother, and we talked about Doctor Strangelove. So if you want to see that, you can. Next time on that show, we're going to be watching Breakin', the classic breakdancing movie, the prequel to Break Into Electric Boogaloo, probably the most famous sequel of all time, or at least the most famous sequel name of all time. But we got to get the first one out of the way first. It was really important to me that we do Breakin' 1 before Breakin' 2, because I didn't want to miss out on any of the crucial story details, like why are they breakdancing? Who is breakdancing? Why should I care about the breakdancing? But I'm very excited. I think we're going to be recording the next episode this week, so hopefully the episode on Breakin' will be coming out very soon. And I'm fully anticipating to give Breakin' probably 4 stars, because I've seen the first 10 minutes of it and it was a blast, and I have to assume that they keep that energy going for the whole hour and 20 minutes, because this is a movie that knows what it is. It's a movie about breakdancing teens, and I can appreciate that a lot. And I love a good dance movie. It's not even a musical. They don't sing in it. They're just dancing. It's like an hour and 20 minutes of dancing with no plot. It's probably going to be
Perfect.
it's going to be the best movie of all time, I think. I hope. But yeah, that's my plug. I could plug the main channel, but I'll just do that at the end. For now, I'm going to pass it on over to Babby for his segment of the show. Music.
Yippee. I guess we got a couple of things that got some news. That's always good.
Really?
Yeah. A lot of people announced albums this week, actually.
I didn't hear of anything.
Nothing.
I'm joking.
Yeah. Where do we start? I think we have to start with Lucy, because I don't know if there's anything else.
Oh,
Lucy Dacus, new album.
yeah.
I
Forever
am
is a
so
feeling.
excited. Yeah, out in March with everything else. March is gonna be stacked.
It's like the
incredibly
very end
stacked.
of March. It's like March
It's
28th.
all on the 28th. I don't know what's
Oh.
happening. Yeah. So I think we get Clipping and Lucy and a couple of other things on the
Oh.
28th. So
What is clipping
March
dropping in
is-
March?
I don't know.
That doesn't seem like a good time to drop a clipping album.
Well, it's not a Halloween one; it's a cyberpunk one this time. So
Oh,
maybe they felt March was the most cyberpunky month.
I guess.
But yeah, new album is Forever is a Feeling. There's 2 singles out now. We got Ankles and Limerence.
Limerence. Yeah.
I think they're both pretty great.
Yeah.
Ankles is like more of a home video, straightforward, kind of like hot and heavy type track,
Yeah.
which I enjoy. I was scared when I saw Ankles because that reminded me of Thumbs, and I'm like,
Yeah,
oh.
I thought that same thing.
It was complete opposite. I think it's pretty great.
Mm-hmm.
I think Limerence is like my jam, though. That song is so good. I'm hoping this is kind of the direction this record goes in, given the cover and all the very baroque feeling of it, because the production and her voice on this track is just so good. Yeah, I am so excited for this. I feel like it's home video is 2021 home video came out.
Yeah, it's been a minute.
How did that come out 4 years ago?
I honestly, it was kind of crazy. Like the day before
terrifying.
this was announced, I was like, Lucy's due.
Yeah, they all are.
Yeah, that's true.
So, but yeah, very excited. I believe I saw an article somewhere of kind of like the people that are working on this record with her. I know All of Boy Genius is working on it with her, so I'm sure there'll be the backing vocals and stuff for that. But I also believe there's some other collaborators, which is kind of interesting on the more production side.
Oh.
So let me see if I can see it in here. Yeah, we have Hosier, Blake Mills, Bartees Strange, Madison Cunningham, Colin Pastore, Jake Finch, and Melina Duterte. Uh,
Huh.
this should be pretty sick. I think having someone like Bartees Strange and like Phoebe Bridgers and everything working on this should be sick. And
Oh yeah.
Hosier,
I
like
love Hosier.
I think Lucy's due for an album that like really just shows off her voice and songwriting ability, and the first two singles here kind of point towards that. So
Yeah, home video
I don't
does
know.
that.
It does, but I think this is going to show it on a grander scale. That one still has like that kind of indie pop kind of
Mm,
vibe to it.
yeah.
Um, this feels more singer songwriter kind of. I don't want to say art pop, but more like put together Wise Blood type stuff almost.
Mm,
So
I could see that. Yeah.
I think that would fit her very well.
I
So
think so. I think it'll be really good.
so we'll
Hopefully.
do that on the channel, I'm sure, because
Oh
duh.
yeah. Yeah. Of course.
But I think that was the big news thing this week. I think we're gearing up for next Friday, which is the big drop of January. So we have actually the weekend delayed hurry up tomorrow to the 31st because of the wildfires, which respectable because I think he had a show in LA that
Oh.
night for the album release. So
Oh. I was
they're
like,
not
wait,
going to do
why
that.
did they? Why would you
Yeah,
push the
I think it's
album? That
because of
makes
the
sense.
show that goes with it when it comes
Okay.
out. So
Okay.
that makes sense. I don't know. The
I
weekend
support that.
always with like his charitable work and all of that stuff. He is very on top of things always. So
That's
I think
good.
this is an acceptable pushback. Um,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm glad. I
yeah.
accept it.
So we still don't have a track list or anything. I wonder if he's going to do anything like that or if it's just going to come out. I'm not sure.
I don't know.
Um, but that's the 31st, which clears up FKA Twigs for the 24th because I'm going to be all over that thing.
There you
Um,
go.
I'm expecting that to be a top album for a little bit, just given the two singles we've had. Um, but we also have Mike with Showbiz on the 31st as well. I think we got the track list for that today too,
Oh.
which I think it's like 24 songs, which I'm very down for. I think I'm assuming features are hidden or there's just not a lot of features. But yeah, 24 tracks on that. I am so excited for this as well. Um, yeah, we're getting started pretty good this year. In terms of stuff, it's Thursday, so the Mac Miller will be out by the time you're hearing this podcast.
Oh
But
boy.
I am excited to listen to that tomorrow, so I'll talk about that next week. Um, there's also a short film that they had made for this as well. I don't know if it's a short film or a full film. I'm not entirely clear. They put a trailer out today, but that's going to be on Prime Video, I think. Um,
Oh.
so I'm excited for that. The because I think it's the same animator that did the Color and Shapes video. Given the trailer, which looks incredible, that animation style is crazy. So I might check that out. I'd be interested to see what that is all about. It seems like it's like a story built off of the kind of themes and stuff he has on the new album. So that might be interesting. Um, but yeah, it's people have already started talking about it, but I'll give my thoughts next week because everybody does the funny VPN New Zealand thing.
No.
You can just time travel 12 hours in advance. Um, but yeah, very excited for that. We also have the Gais Guevara album coming out on the 24th. I forgot about that. I will also be picking that up right away. This is his Fat Possum debut. Very excited for this. I've definitely had my eye on him for since There Will Be No Super Slave in 2022. So a lot of stuff coming in the next
Yeah.
couple of weeks here, which I'm very excited for. Um, I wasn't going to have any albums to talk about this week, but we got a surprise album release from Backwood Studios. Um, they were kind of teasing an announcement thingy for the 10th, and I was interested to see if it was like a Billy Woods album announcement or something else. It was definitely something else. It is a collab album that dropped right away out of nowhere, which is Doze One and Steel Tip Dove combining forces. Uh, I'm pretty familiar with Steel Tip Dove. He is a fantastic producer across a lot of Billy Woods and Armand Hammer projects. He's really great. He's got this kind of like almost Blockhead esque kind of. I don't want to say like electronic-y industrial type thing, but he kind of plays with that a little bit. But Doze One is someone who I've not heard of, and I don't know how. This is someone who is pretty instrumental in the like early experimental scene in the early 2000s, like experimental hip hop and such. 98 was kind of his big release with Slow Death, which I'll probably listen to. Um, but I was very interested because I'm like, I have no idea who this guy is. Apparently, he's part of like three different hip hop groups from like the early 2000s. Um, and this album is all portrait, no chorus, and it is something. Uh, yeah, this is one that's going to be very divisive, and I'm seeing the divisiveness on album of the year. I don't think that's like one of the only times now where I've seen like a grand uh disconnect between album of the year and other like places that talk about this album. Um, I think he can be very off-putting for a lot of people. His voice can go from extremely like gravelly and strange to just like nonsensical. There are certain tracks where he sounds like Marge Simpson, which is very interesting. Um, I don't know. I don't like all of it, but I do like most of it. It is really wacky, but my God, can this guy rap?
Hmm.
Voices aside, I think if he had a more like conventional voice, people would be all over this thing. Um, I think it's a little bit too far fetched for most people that I'm seeing, but there's a couple of tracks here that just really, really, really go hard. Um, I think about like half, a little bit more than half, I'm like really into, and the other ones I'm like trying to warm up to a little bit. Um, but just the strangest vocal delivery I've heard in a long time. I'm not sure if his old work is like that or not. Sounds like he had a more like high pitched, weird kind of vocal in his older work, and this is more of a newer thing he's trying out with this kind of gravelly, grumbly. Sounds like a little gremlin almost.
Ooh.
But I don't know the flows he's catching on this thing. Some of the bars I was picking up, it's just incredibly talented, and it does definitely remind me of like 2000s New York underground type stuff. Um, Not as like aligned with LP, but more of like those very far fetched, almost old dirty bastard type deliveries and things like that.
Hmm.
So it's a pretty sick album. I really do enjoy it. It's off the wall. It is incredibly unique. Steel Tip Dove is amazing on this album. The production is fantastic. Um, he really, I think everything I've heard Steel Tip Dove on, he knows how to capture the vibe of the main artist perfectly. So he's always able to kind of blend whatever he needs to. I think his last one with Fatboy Sharif, the Decay album, even though Fatboy Sharif is someone like people will say Doze One is like I can't get into him because his voice is so low I can't hear what he's saying. It sounds like he's chopped and screwed without anything happening to him. But Steel Tip Toe's production is still incredible on that album. Um, but I think the features on this album are great too. Mike Eagle kills it as always on his feature. The Billy Woods feature is pretty great. Um, but yeah, overall, it's very solid. It's gonna be very divisive, so I fully expect people to turn this on and try it, and then be like, "I can't do this,"
Hmm.
and that's fine. But I think if people were kind of aware of Doze One or this kind of scene from way back in the day, I think they'll pretty much connect with this album right away. I'm somewhere in the middle. I think it's very solid. I need more time with it, um, but I think a lot of the ideas here are really great. So. I think Went Off with Open Mike Eagle is great. Inner Animal is crazy. No Cops is fantastic. Wasteland Embrace with Billy Woods. And I think Untouchable has like, it's his most straightforward line delivery. And I think it turns out pretty well. So yeah, that was a surprise one out of nowhere. I did not expect anything like that. But I always loved that. I like that I can follow these smaller labels and I can always tap into like whatever they put out because I know there's a certain level of quality there that I can come to expect. So,
Yeah.
but that's uh that's all the new stuff I had. Um, Other than that, just been really this Ethel Kane EP is just so good. I'm still really into it. It's grown on me more actually. It's phenomenal. Um, and the COD Descendants of Kane album has also been in constant rotation. So both of those have been treating me very good. So, but that's it. We got Leon the Havas on the channel this week. So you
Oh
won't see
yeah.
it for a week or two probably. You'll get
Yeah.
SZA this week finally.
We're a
Um,
little backed up.
we are, but it's fine. Starting slow. It's okay.
It's okay.
Um, But yeah, you'll hear our thoughts on SZA this week. Hopefully that
Yeah,
goes over
very
well.
popular.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it's gonna be as hot take as we're expecting.
No, it's sad.
I stand on my feelings about it, so
I do too.
I feel confident in it.
Yeah, it's bad.
Yeah. I think our winter song deadline is coming up too.
It is. So please go over to the Boy Time community tab and submit your pick for a winter song. And then we'll compile them all together, and then we'll start reviewing your submissions.
Yes, sir.
Which I'm very
We usually make a
excited for.
video on the channel to like promote it, but we didn't do that with this one.
We do?
Which, yeah, with the summer ones, we made like a small little video just to be
Oh.
like, go submit your song, because then more people went to it. But
Oh.
I think it's fine without this one, because then we don't have to make 4 videos. I think the summer one we got so many we had to do like 4 videos.
I think it was the best.
Oh, it was best
the
songs, I
best
think.
songs. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know how many comments we've gotten so far.
We have like 10 or
We've
so.
gotten a few.
And then we'll probably have a submission each. And then she'll probably submit something. Maybe we can get Bab to Jab too. So
Yeah.
I think we'll have enough for sure.
I think so. I'm excited. I love winter.
Me too. I have like a for sure got like immediate pick, but I might just do another one for for variety, because it's gonna be very obvious what it was. So
What are you gonna do? Silver Bells?
yeah, I'll do Silver Bells.
Although I specifically said, if you
No
submit
Christmas songs.
if you submit a Christmas
ban you.
song, you will be banned and blocked.
Which is true.
Yeah, I don't know why I was so aggressive in that community post. I think I also said if you submit after the deadline, you'll be reported for
Yeah.
harassment.
Which is not true, but
Which
we
is
might
true.
not get yours in the video. So
Yeah. It is true in a sense.
I suppose.
Yes. But is that all the music stuff you have this week?
I think so. I feel like I had more, but I didn't. I was just excited to talk about Lucy, I think.
Me too. I'm very excited. I think she's coming to St. Paul. So I think I'm.
Oh yeah, I
definitely
didn't even
going.
check the tour dates.
Yeah, pre-sale is Tuesday.
Okay.
So
We got the infamous couch show. Not
we
many
did.
people can say that.
It was a great show.
It was a fantastic show.
I'm excited
going to
to
that
see
venue
her.
again in April. So
Oh, I want to see her stand up. I'm very excited to see her stand up.
that's true. We haven't seen her stand up and perform yet.
Yeah, it was an interesting vibe.
It was cozy though. It was nice.
Oh yeah, I liked it. That's probably my favorite concert I ever been to.
Okay.
It's nice.
Yeah, it's up there for me.
It was nice. Except she didn't play Please Stay, so
That's true.
that was the first thing I said. I realized I was probably in poor taste. It was like the set ended and immediately I'm like, she didn't play Please Stay, I'm gonna kill myself, like right around a bunch of people. And I thought about that recently. I'm like, that was probably not a great thing to say in front of a bunch of strangers, but
Oh well.
it's what I thought in the moment. And
You only live once.
yeah, I've
A
grown
lot of
up.
authenticity out there nowadays. You gotta put yourself out there.
I would never make suicide jokes now.
Never.
I've never done that before or since. I listened to 2 albums this week, or one of them, I guess, is technically an EP. The EP is Goodbye to the Valley Low Side B by Hazlitt. There's some great songs on here. Hazlitt, I was not familiar with his game, but he appears to be what would happen if Post Malone actually was a real singer-songwriter, because he has like the warble thing going on. Other than that, it doesn't really sound like Post Malone. It's just kind of the vocal quality there. But it's really, really great stripped down acoustic jams that just came out last October. I recommend listening to Bones Shake and I'm Not Ready to Go. Those are my two favorites off the EP. I won't add it to the channel because I don't think you'll have much to add. But
Okay.
that's that. The other album I listened to was Flight by Flight. It's spelled Flyte, not like you're
Mm-hmm.
flying a plane. Um, this is just a cute album. It's singer songwriter, but it almost kind of like rides the line of being Tumblr kitschy, but I don't think it is. It is kind of like genuinely sweet at parts. And the whole time I was listening to it, I'm like, this guy is doing the Runner thing, which I know that Runner is not like the only person to kind of do the Midwest emo inflection and a singer songwriter type thing. Um, but then the more I was listening to him, like, oh, this guy doesn't sound like Runner. He sounds exactly like Paul Simon. And then once I realized that, I couldn't unhear it. So sorry if you're a big Flight fan and now you can't unhear him as Paul Simon, but sorry, that's kind of where I'm at on it. But it is very nice. Check out the song Speech Bubble or Bedtime Reminder. Bedtime Reminder straight up sounds like a Simon and Garfunkel song. So if you like Simon and Garfunkel but are sad because Art Garfunkel has since passed, you should listen to that song by Flight. Paul Simon's still kicking though. And actually, to be completely honest, I don't know if Art Garfunkel is dead.
Please hold.
He's not dead. Okay, never mind.
Yippee.
He's 83 though, so probably soon. So if you're listening to this podcast in a couple years, then that will probably be true. I just want to, throw that out there. Shout out Art Garfunkel and shout out Paul Simon for making an
Art
African album.
Garfunkel is an amazing name. So
It's kind of a hard one to say.
it is, but it's unique. I enjoy it.
His full name is Arthur Ira Garfunkel.
That's sick.
That's a mouthful. But yeah, those are the two albums I listened to. I don't think I'm gonna add Flight to the wheel either because, again, I don't think that you'll have much to add.
That's okay.
Yeah, but check them out. They're pretty fun and nice, I think.
For you.
Other than that, I've just been listening to. I haven't really been listening to the Lucy stuff. I listened to them like once, and I'm like, I don't want
to spoil it too
Yeah.
much.
I'm always worried about that.
Yeah.
Especially since we do reactions. I don't want to like listen to a song so much, and then by the time the reaction comes out, I have nothing to add.
Yeah. Usually it's like I want to listen to all the new stuff, and I have to sit through all the songs I've heard already.
Yeah. I think the one exception to that was So You Are Tired off Javelin. I listened to that song all the time, and then I only liked it more when we listened to it in the context of the album.
Me too. All the singles were good, and then I listened to the album. I'm like, these are some of the best songs I've heard in a long time.
I know. I remember thinking like, oh, So You Are Tired is pretty good. But like, I wasn't like, it's one of the best Sufjan songs. And now I probably would say that. It's absolutely phenomenal.
I agree.
Thanks, Sufjan, and thanks, Lucy, and thank you, Art Garfunkel. Really, at the end of the day.
That's what it comes down to.
Yeah. It's kind of a shame that he didn't get a career after Simon and Garfunkel ended.
Yeah.
It's all Paul Simon this, Paul Simon that.
Deal.
Paul Simon is in the SNL 5-Timers Club, and Art Garfunkel is not. What's the deal?
Put some respect on Garfunkel.
Yeah. He has some good jams. He, I listened to Bridge Over Troubled Water, the album. I don't know if I talked about this on the podcast. It's really good. Some of it. It's kind of all over the place, the album. like obviously Bridge Over Troubled Water is fantastic. I think I like the Boxer even more than that song though.
Hmm?
Like that the Boxer is great. Um, and then Baby Driver makes me uncomfortable. I like that song, but um, I just don't like the line. What is it? I want to I want to know how your engines feel, and I'm like, I don't want to picture you
Really into
guys.
cars.
Yeah, well, I don't know. It's odd. It's like I don't want to picture Paul Simon thinking about some big tits, and I that's what that lyric brings to mind. Um, But yeah, then like, why don't you write me and song for the asking, and then there's a random live song at the end. And I'm like, none of that's really needed. If it ended at the only living boy in New York, then it would be a timeless classic, I think. But it just overstays its welcome a little bit. That's my review of the
Always
album
good when
Bridge
it's at
Over
the end of the
Trouble.
album because then you could just stop it early.
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
done.
That's the one thing I like about 70s albums is that there was a
Mhm.
very clear distinction between the A sides and the B sides.
Yeah.
It's nice. You don't have to flip your record.
Just it's done.
It's done after one. You've listened to all the good stuff. When we get to the Bill Withers album, you're definitely gonna be able to tell. There's a random like cover of Let It Be on that album. I'm like, why would you do
Interesting.
that? We'll get there when we get there, I guess.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that's all my music stuff. A lot of fun singer-songwriter stuff today.
Real. 'Tis the season.
'Tis the season. I love winter. There's snow on the ground. Actually, I don't know if there's going to be snow on the ground by the time this episode comes out because I think tomorrow is going to be 40,
Oh.
which I'm very sad about. That's fine. But I think that'll pretty much do it for this episode of the Boy Time Podcast. We already plugged everything that we wanted to plug. So check out the
I'm
Boy
all
Time main
outlets.
channel and check out the Love the Mom podcast. And check out a David Lynch film from your local library.
Real.
Yeah. I would start with Inland Empire and work backwards. Eraserhead probably is a decent enough starting place.
Yeah.
It's as good a starting place as any, I guess. Well, actually, that's not true. I think the easiest starting place is Twin Peaks.
Oh, absolutely.
Or maybe The Straight Story. That actually might be that's like the one outlier in his entire career. Where it's just this cute little story about a guy riding a lawnmower. It just has all of the small town quirks that David Lynch is known for with none of the surrealist stuff. So it was made for me. Because I hate
He's got a little something
surrealism.
for everyone.
Yeah. I don't like thinking about stuff that isn't real. Show me something that's real. Well, that's something I didn't bring up about Nosferatu is that like the movie is constantly fucking with you. Where it's like it'll be like a shot of someone entering a door and then it will like as they're crossing the threshold, it'll like switch to the other character's perspective walking through a different door. And so like it's constantly throwing you off guard. That's what's so effective about it. And that's also what's effective about this podcast. Bye.